I've been doing Maffetone training for almost 2 years now, and while there's been lots of positive benefits, such as me being able to run for longer, me being able to run without injury, and all that great stuff, there's also been downsides, and those downsides are really outweighing the positive for me right now, and I think I'm gonna have to drop MAF, so let's talk about that. First off, welcome to the first edition of Tuesday Talks, where I just pick a random topic that's on my mind and speak about it here on a Tuesday, so welcome. If this is your first time here, my name is Brendon. I'm a Halifax, Nova Scotia non-elite runner who likes to talk about running here on the internet. So with that out of the way, let's talk about MAF training. I'm going to break this down into two sections: the performance benefits I've seen with Maffetone training and the performance downsides, and the mental benefits I've had from MAF training and, again, the mental downsides. Oh, and I'll also finish out the video talking about how I'm going to transition away from MAF here in the future. For those of you that don't know what Maffetone training is, it's essentially running at a very low heart rate for all of your runs. So the formula that they use is 180 minus your age, and there's a bunch of different categories that if you've been sick, you -5. If you haven't been sick, you add 5. So I'll leave a link to all this stuff in the description below. So if you want to see that, it's right below the like button. For the performance side, the MAF training actually does a fantastic job at building your aerobic capacity. And essentially, if you build your aerobic capacity, you're able to run longer because your body's more efficient at pumping blood, utilizing oxygen, your heart's getting stronger, your muscles are getting stronger. It does a fantastic job at building that aerobic capacity, and I really think that one of the main reasons is because you're able to run so frequently. At the low heart rate, my body's never really sore. Like, you know, when you're in a big training block, you've just done a bunch of hard sessions back to back to back, your legs are sore, you're fatigued, you're mentally tired. But with MAF training at that low heart rate, my body has essentially never been sore from running. And that's absolutely fantastic because I love to run, but there have been some massive downsides that I've been noticing lately. So I now want to add a little bit of speed into my training because I am getting up to race season. I've done like 98% of my running at the very low heart rate, maybe add in a few strides to test out some faster shoes, but majority of my runs have been at that slow pace. I'm at a really low cadence. So my cadence is very, very impacted. And when I've been trying to pick up the pace and have a faster turnover, so my feet turning faster, it feels awkward. That low heart rate training has really destroyed my faster turnover. When I first started running, like going out there and didn't know anything, just going out there, having the best time, running as fast as I can all the time, my cadence was between like 175 to 185. With MAF training, it's been around 162 to 170 at max, so it's a much lower cadence. And now that I'm trying to add in that speed and pick up the pace, my turnover, it just feels sloppy, it feels awkward. So that's a massive downside that I've been finding with MAF training, is that it has destroyed my cadence. And another thing I've noticed is I've had really sloppy form. I'm never gonna look like Eliud Kipchoge, whose running form could be a painting on my wall and people would stop and gawk at. But my running form has been better than it is right now. Something I've noticed is that because I'm running so slow for longer periods, my body just feels hunched over, my head's leaning forward a bit more, and my running form just isn't as good as it once was. And I don't want to purely blame MAF for my sloppy form here because it is on me. Like, I could be more cognizant about my form when I'm out there running slow, but it's just, I don't know, I get lost in my train of thought and trying to really just push myself through those slower runs. Like, they're kind of boring. So my head gets kind of lost and I don't think about my form as much. Now let's move on to the mental side of Maffetone training, because Maffetone training really does do a fantastic job at building that mental toughness, because you're going out there and running so slow, and it is so boring to go out there for a couple hour run. Just like, I don't know, when I first started running, I was running at like 7 minute per kilometer pace, if not slower. So it's kind of boring. And right now I'm even only going like 5:30 per kilometer pace. So it's not extremely fast. And it really does help build up that mental callus, which kind of translates over into other areas of your life. So MAF training builds the mental toughness quite well. But with that said, there are some pretty darn big mental downsides for me personally that I really need to fix, because I'm starting to become a little bit obsessed with my heart rate. And not in a good way. So heart rate is an excellent gauge to see how your body's feeling, how it's responding, and the effort level you're putting in. It's a great indicator for that. But right now I'm finding that I'm becoming too obsessed with my heart rate, and I'm letting my heart rate dictate my mood for an entire day, if I'm being honest. So if I go out and start my run and my heart rate's a little bit higher than it normally is, maybe 5 to 10 beats per minute higher, my mood for that rest of the day is going to be completely off, because I start thinking like, oh, my heart rate's a little bit higher. Is there something really wrong with me? Am I getting sick? What's going on here? And sometimes those thoughts become so overwhelming that I just stop my run and don't run that day. Even though physically I might feel super fresh. Physically, my body feels great. My legs feel great. But for some reason, my heart rate's just reading a little bit high, and I'm letting that completely dictate my life. it's not healthy. And honestly, heart rate can be impacted by so many different things. Maybe I didn't sleep well. Maybe I'm more stressed that day. Maybe I had a little bit more caffeine. Maybe something I ate is impacting my heart rate. Or potentially the technology I'm using is malfunctioning and having a different reading than what's actually true. So all these things can really impact heart rate, and I'm letting it dictate how I'm feeling. But on the flip side, if I go out there and my heart rate's really low, I am gonna freaking love that. I'm gonna be so happy with it for the rest of the day, but I'm currently in an unhealthy relationship with my heart rate monitor and my heart rate readings when I'm out there running. Letting my heart rate dictate my entire mood and how I'm feeling, and really allowing me to get anxious if my heart rate's higher, is not a good place to be. And the last point about me being obsessed about heart rate is why I'm going to actually stop doing Maffetone training right now and focus less on heart rate and more on pace and rate of perceived exertion just for a little bit. I will eventually start to use heart rate as a gauge again. Of course, like I want to know how my body's responding. Is my resting heart rate getting higher when I'm in a training block? All these things are great indicators for how rested your body is. But for now, I need to pull myself away from that and just use rate of perceived exertion and pace. So leading into my race season that I'm getting into right now, I have my first race in 6 weeks, I believe it is. I have a 5K coming up, so we'll see how that goes. It has been a long time since I've done a 5K race, so I'm just going to allow myself to train by pace and rate of perceived exertion. It's going to be really hard not to just be obsessively checking my watch every 15 seconds, but you know what, folks? That is what needs to be done. So I'm starting that transition away from MAF starting next week. I'm going to do one more week of MAF training just to get my mind prepared. And starting next week, I'm going to do a training series talking about how rate of perceived exertion and pace training is going for me after doing MAF training for so long. So if that's something you want to hear more about, hit that subscribe button. And have you done MAF training and had a similar experience to me, or have you done MAF training and absolutely love it? I'd love to hear more about your experiences in the comment section down below. And I'm going to leave a video right up here. When I first started to do MAF training, I was all gung-ho, and don't judge that video. It's been like 2 years, so I might be a little bit more awkward, even though I'm still awkward. Like, I'm a software engineer. I'm an awkward person. Thank you so much for making it to the end of the video. I hope you enjoyed this first edition of Talking Tuesdays. Not sure what the name's going to be. We'll come up with that later, but I will see you on the next one.